Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life. Hello and welcome back to the Bracket Life broadcast, Canada's drag racing show. Brandon here, as always, joined by my good buddy, Andrew Stark. Andrew, how's it going tonight?
We're doing all right. Can't complain too much. It's another wonderful Tuesday night in the world of drag racing. Look forward to this every 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Me too. Especially because there's a lot going on, a lot of excitement, right? You can tell we're getting close to February. Stuff's starting to really move. You know, people are starting to get jacked up out there.
Yeah, well, the warm-up races down in Florida are starting, right? Live feeds from Bradenton, just enough to, know that things are happening, right? You get announcements about races coming up and racers making their professional starts. So that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're really jonesing to go racing or do a racing type event this weekend, you got, 4 or 5 days? Saturday, Belleville, Ontario, Winter Rumble, Bracket Street competition. Warm-up race pays $2,000 to win. Main event, $5,000 to win. Come check it out, man. If you haven't seen it, you got to hear about it. Go check it out. I hope to see everybody there. I'm really excited for this event once again. It's gonna be great. There's been a lot of great excitement for it. So we'll see what happens.
Money, some big prizes. Like it's there's a lot of stuff to win there.
Absolutely, there is. It's hard to find something else to do this upcoming weekend than drive to Belleville and try your hand at $5,000 to win for letting go of a button, man. We don't need to worry about driving the race car, driving the rig, doing this, doing that, getting the setup. None of it. Your tires aren't going to spin. You just got to let go of the button.
Not the ones that race car, at least. Yeah,
they might. You never know. You never know. Absolutely. If you're tuning in live, be sure follow Mike's lead there already in the comments. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're watching from. Check it out. We got hopefully a lot of fan interaction or viewer interaction tonight on some different topics we have going on. So let us know you're here. Chime in whenever you have a thought or something like that through it. We'll bring your comment up on the screen and have some good conversation. I'm excited for it. So That's it. Yep. And if you are checking it out on YouTube, even if you're not on YouTube, click on there, Bracket Life brand, hit subscribe for us. Go through that, and we'll keep doing this every other Tuesday.
That's fun.
Absolutely. So, Andrew, we'll dive into the Canadian countdown first. We got some good news for Canadians in NHRA Pro Stock. We talked to Sienna Wildguts before. Now we got some more updates, right?
Yeah. Sienna finished her NHRA Pro Stock licensing. There was lots of videos through her own social media and various other sources through there, and we can see that the progression's gone well for her. She's done a fantastic job. That is a very complicated ride to jump into as your first professional ride to figure out, get comfortable with. But it sounds like she's making her debut at the Gators, at least with some of the indications for her. So this is an exciting time for Canada, because this is, I'm trying to think of the last NHRA Pro Stock racer that Canada had trying to start a race, and Mark Martino might be the last person I can think of. So,
well, you got me on that because I have no idea.
There you go. So we'll roll that one out there, Mark Martino. But should be an exciting start to the year. I'm sure there's more testing for them as they come up with a lot of the big events still to happen in the preseason for NHRA. Also in Bradenton, which is where a lot of the testing happened, you would have seen. Well, unless you were living under a rock, I was for a little bit of it. But the U.S. Streetcar Nationals was kind of the prelude, the warm-up race for a lot of the big events like the World Series of Pro Mod. There was a great contingent of Canadians. Scotty Wildgust down there, Kenny Lang. I have to go back up to my list here and find it again now. We got Louis Omet, Paolo Juste. Everyone qualified from that end of it. I don't think any of the Canadians didn't qualify. Went a couple rounds. I don't believe anyone went deep in it. It was a great racing. This was also the week that saw the monster outlaw pro modifieds like Mark Mickey going head-to-head with Todd Moyer. Moyer going 5:14 at 273. And you realize that's not Canadian, but that's just monster to see that type of pass getting laid down in a pro modified.
I don't know if anybody else saw it, but I think that was faster. So 5:14 the quarter mile. I think it's 273 miles an hour. That is faster than any alcohol funny cars ever went,
Yep.
and is I think the fourth or fifth fastest run ever in a top alcohol dragster.
Yeah, because top
Yeah.
alcohol dragster's been 5.0s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
it
I
would be
believe,
up
like,
there.
yeah, I'd be
I hadn't
interested to
thought
see
about the
what.
angle.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what a top alcohol dragster would go. An outlaw top alcohol dragster could go. I'm not sure if there's how much more there is. Like, I'm not sure if there is
Oh,
more in that, but either way, 5:14 in a door car.
yeah, just a
Ridiculous.
suspended door car. The fact that this thing, and it was an amazing pass. I mean, I know we're kind of going off the script here a little bit with this, but like, if there's ever a memorable, and I think I shared this has to be one of the candidates for like the run of the year, right? Every
Yeah.
year there's these like 3 or 4 small handful of runs that passes throughout a season, whether they were qualifying or eliminations, are just stupid, ridiculously unbelievable. This is that. This run has everything in it to be able to make it. Those wheels are dancing off the front all the way down. They're literally just rudders, right? It hits the traction control hard, right? It dances all the way down and still goes 5:14 at 1,100 feet. Those shoots were, he was off power and out at somewhere around 1,200, right? To still go what it was. Unbelievable run. Just amazing that we were able to see that. So that was all part of the U.S. Street Nationals. On top of all the race, I think that kind of took the headline for most of the days there. The Motorama Custom Car and Motorsports Expo coming up, for those who've heard me beating the drum on that one. Drag Racing Night of Champions, for those who haven't signed up yet, there's still an opportunity. We've got a few more weeks left till the deadline. Deadline essentially is that if you don't sign up before this, then the plaques, the cool swag, the free hardware may not be available, but you're always still invited to attend the show. If you're a champion there, just let us know. We would prefer to know ahead of time. It's March 8th, 9th, and 10th. If you haven't been to it, fun again way. It's not like the Rumble coming up here where you can win 5K, but it's certainly a great way to get out of the house, go see some cool race cars, talk to some people, just find something to do to get ready for race season.
I agree. It is a fun time. Been a few. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's about it for the Canadian Countdown for this week, right? Not enough going on.
January.
Right? The end of January 30th. It's crazy. Time is flying. So that's about that. We will dive right into some of the hot topics. So we'll start out. We talked about a bit of a pro mod topic to this point. So we'll stick on that. Bit of a kind of watch out kind of deal. Brandon Pez had his pro mod car ran into on Saturday night, Sunday morning, I believe it was, at this U.S. Street Nationals down there. Later on, did find out it was a pair of drivers of a golf cart that might have had a few too many drinks earlier that evening, ran into it. Quick reminder, just be careful when you are at the racetrack. I'm a little honestly surprised this does not happen more, but we're at these tracks with literal hundreds of $1,000s worth of race cars and rigs and trailers and things like that, and people walking around, and with their families, not just random ones out there by themselves. So you got to be careful with stuff like that. You never know what can happen. It's never going to happen to you. You're never going to do that. Whatever, right? But we just need to be aware of those things, because that so much of that race car was damaged, I believe, on the one side. Could have been much worse, right? You never know who could have been in the tent that when that golf cart went through there and ran into it. So, yeah.
These are scary things. I mean, that was a hard hit to be able to move that car that far, right? Into the side of the trailer and damage the cap and the hubcaps in the trailer, like the wheel covers on there. Like, this wasn't just it slid across the ground, although the conspiracy theories on the wind and the parachutes was certainly grassy knoll-ish after a little while. Other than the fact they found a tow bar and blood, in which case CSI Miami got called in on that one, I guess, to get to work. But I think it's an unfortunate reminder, because someone in this case does have a damaged race car. It sounds like the parties that caused the issue have come forth and are going to pay for it. But it certainly created a buzz Sunday morning. And as I said, it created a thought of this. We've certainly seen a lot of interesting and poor decisions over the years at racetracks. The fact that this doesn't happen as often as it sometimes I think could is truly, a bit remarkable, and a good reminder of maybe why we need to be a little more cautious about these things and rein some of these things in a little bit more. There's been a few nights where you can hear people out rolling around and fully expecting to hear a golf cart and a trailer or a motorhome find out, what they sound like a full tilt boogie into each other.
That's right.
So, but,
That's right.
Yeah.
And this, absolutely. Something that has happened before and will more than likely happen again. But if you can, try and avoid that as much. We'll move on to some little happier news. Andrew, this is a good one. We got more investments coming into our Canadian drag racing. So a lot of tracks so far this year already looking at investing in their racing surface. We know when we talked to Braden Haru a few weeks ago now, SIR, Saskatchewan International Raceway, looking at new track surface, or I'm not sure what state of the process they're in on that, but I know that's been a deep discussion for them. TMP, Toronto Motorsports Park, they just had I don't know if it was a track evaluation or what's the whole story is, but it looks promising.
Yeah, they had, and I always forget the company. It's Kurt Johnson's company. So it's track.
I know the name if you said it.
Total Venue Concepts. So they came in and they've worked with TMP, I think on and off for quite a few years with dealing with track upgrades and various other things. So they came in and they've the same thing that happened to SIR. They went front to back in the track, got a reading of the flatness of it. It's been the right lane's been a contentious topic for a lot of the local folks on whether there's a bump there that causes issues, and there's been issues with some fast cars and some slower cars going over it. So they've gone and done the recording to know where that is. I'm not sure what the game plan is, but I doubt you call someone in with their specialty equipment to have them check the track without having a game plan on how to fix said track. So that's exciting news because that's certainly been one of the bigger contentious issues on track lengths, because the track for the last season and a half, certainly all of last year, moved to an 8th mile concept or setup simply because of the issues that some racers were seeing in the right. They didn't want to create an issue where your wins and losses are going to be dictated by lane choice. So they moved, and now that it looks like they're going back to the ability to go to quarter mile, it sparked on top of Grand Bend deciding and going that they're just going to move to an 8th mile format similar to the majority of the U.S. tracks in this sector of the world. The contentious conversation of what length should we run, and that has certainly blown up. It's been interesting to watch. There's been some interesting polls. There's certainly been a lot of vetting that's going to have to happen on these racer feedback polls, because I'm more than positive everyone has been phoning their grandmother and uncles, aunts, nieces, nephews to vote today. If we had this much interest in our political system, we'd probably be in a better place. But in all frankness, it's been interesting to watch, and it's certainly been a huge conversation, right? What length do you want to run? And it's one of those things that it's come to, I won't say come to a head, but it's been talked about a couple years now, right? Since Grand Bend had made some changes and St. Thomas fixed their track. I mean, in essence, they have an entire quarter mile facility paved, ready to go, and they elected to stay running 8th mile. And that's going back quite a few years now since that was all done. So it's interesting conversations happening. They've broken it down into classes. I fully believe this is going to turn into a class conversation, which, I think Grand Bend had an announcement today that they've elected they're moving their so mod, which is no box, top, which is box, their Extreme 32, which is essentially fast super pro, because it's a faster than a certain ET type class. And I'm not sure if Sportsman is going the 8th mile, and then they're going to run bike, sled, and street quarter. So they're retaining some quarter mile aspects, open comps, another class that they have, and that's going to stay. And I think that's kind of where you're going to see other places fall into. I think Cayuga is probably going that same direction if you kind of follow where they're going. Just the problem now is which ones, because the interesting conversation from that end has been there's a lot of overlapping doubles. One of the biggest things with the racing of Ontario, for those who are following from out east or out west who aren't as familiar with, or even Eastern Ontario, because Again, we've identified that's a different marketplace. Western Ontario runs a lot of classes. I've been at tracks sometimes where there's as many as 15 classes all competing on the same track in the same day. Truthfully, there's a lot of double entries just because of that. Not in the same class, just that's how we've built a double system. Is there's 2 classes for you to run in rather than trying to whip the car around for your second entry in box. And through that, it has created the conversation of if in our CSS case, you have foot brake, you've street, foot brake, modified, super pro. And that is the hierarchy of kind of how the classes go. Street and foot brake have doubles. Foot brake and mod have doubles. Mod and super pro have doubles. Super pro and quick sportsman, which is the RCSS quick class, have doubles. If any one of these move to the 8th, one of them is going to have a double situation where it's 2 different lengths. Where does that line go? A lot of interesting conversation on where that should be, why that should be, why that shouldn't be. It's a surprisingly contentious issue. One that probably is due to happen because, as we've talked about in the U.S. world, and I think you and I may have some differing thoughts on this, and I'm curious where you go with this, but my thought was this conversation in the U.S. is kind of over. They've made the switch predominantly amongst almost every bracket racing organization, and that's the key word I'll use for a second here is bracket racing organization. And it's not really a conversation anymore. It's gone. It's done. There's only really one area still bracket or still racing in quarter mile, and that's NHRA. And then what it comes down to is essentially the discussion of in the US, bracket racing's 8th mile, and NHRA is quarter mile outside of the 1 or 2 events in the Carolinas, which have a history of 8th mile sportsman style racing that will run 8th mile or 1,000 foot. In fact, I think only Galat Motorsports Park is the only one that comes to mind that doesn't run quarter mile for their national open or their divisional. And I think they run 8th mile and 1,000 foot on them. It's going off memory, so that's not so great either. But I know you were going down this road a little bit before the show, and you had talked about, your thoughts on quarter mile, where it was in the U.S. And I said, I think it's dead in the bracket world. And you started to correct me before I'm like, let's do this on air. Yeah. So where were you going to go with that?
So there's a lot to unpack there. I'll circle around to the other stuff. I'll hit that first question. From what I see in the U.S., I do not think that 8th mile, quarter mile discussion is gone at all. Like a lot of folks, and mostly the people that I know or that I have on Facebook or that I see race kind of that Numidia, Pennsylvania area. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of that Northeast deal. There is still a lot of comments for the quarter mile to come back and wanting that. So that's what I've seen that around. I know further on the West Coast, I think most of those bracket series all are quarter mile based on what I know, because tracks like Las Vegas would be a quarter mile racetrack, and that's what they run because that's what they do every year, right? If they have the National Open stuff or they have the NHRA stuff or the divisionals, that's all quarter mile. Based on what I know, this is not fact. This is, what I believe is going on to a certain point. I very much do not think that it is dead at all. I know for the big money bracket racing, what promoters have done is pretty much. I don't honestly know of any so-called big money bracket racing that is quarter mile at the moment. Yeah. I think it all has switched to 8th, if not 99% of it is switched. Yeah. So you are correct there. Now this is, now I'll circle back to kind of the start of it, right? For those of you that might not have seen the poll that was up. So RCSS, Race Q, Sportsman Series put out a poll. They're looking for this year because of the improvements that they are hoping come to Toronto Motorsports Park. They can now run quarter mile safely in somebody's eyes. So I'm not saying, I don't want to get into an argument with somebody if it was or was not safe before, but that is the view of the series. So they're throwing out to the racers and stuff on Facebook. Now, I totally understand everything that they are trying to do, right? Because RCSS has and always will be a series for the racers, right? It's just racers putting on these events so that people have somewhere to go and somewhere to race. They don't want their series or the racing at Cayuga to die, right? Yeah. So Louis and Char predominantly run that with a bunch of help from other racers and other folks there. So they put the poll out. The idea is great. In practice, not so good, as you know. And you kind of hinted on it for the political parts of it. I think it's actually the exact same. When you have an open forum like this, everybody has something to say and everybody has an opinion. When it's time to actually, step up and do something about it, show up at the racetrack, show up somewhere and stand for what you believe in, stand behind what you say online. And not as many people are happen to be there, and that's just how it is, right? I think a lot of people that I saw, and a lot of people have been called out for it, right? That everybody wants, oh, well, I think this, well, I think that, well, I think whatever. Okay. When was the last time you raced there? Yep. Right? When was the last time you came and supported the series? If we change to this, are you going to show up and support it? Oh, well, cars got to get work or got to do this and can't, don't really have time. So I don't, that's the flaw, obviously, as everybody well knows by this point, with just throwing a poll out on Facebook, to look for real data from it. You need to find your data from your points members through a specific channel of getting directly to them and what they want, right? And I think to find the best way, an anonymous one is the best. You don't want to single it in front of people because a lot of people don't want the argument. A lot of people do want to argue. So, what I'm saying? So that's the problem with the way that whole kind of deal went down. Now, I don't know. Do you want it? Do you not want it? Doesn't really matter. I'm not a big fan of it, Yeah. But it is what it is. For a certain type of racing, as we've spoken about, and we've talked a lot about the National Open Series coming to Canadian drag racing and to our area. I want to, I fully intend to plan on running Super Comp. Well, that I want to do quarter mile because I'd like to go to a national event and have somewhere to practice that. It's very hard to ever show up to a national event if you've never actually went the full length of the racetrack. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Roll in there and try to make it go 890 without any hits. Good luck. Practice, and then finish line.
And if you have no racetrack you can ever go practice on, right? Because if TMP just never ran quarter mile again, then who's ever going to get a chance to learn and grow and move away from what we're doing, right? That's the point of the grassroots series, is you start there and then you can grow and kind of move on to something else. You know what I'm saying? So then there's an argument for that that's valid, but I don't know. It's such a hard conversation to have right now. And I think that with the double splitting, as you spoke about, I'm not for people arguing with the setup of the cars. I really genuinely do not think there's that many folks running a regular run-of-the-mill bracket car that their setup is that much different for quarter mile versus 8 mile.
No,
you can't tell me that you're going in and you're switching your rear gear, you're switching the gear in your transmission, and you're doing this and doing that. Maybe change the shift point if you want, but there's
outside of some 3-speed combinations, and maybe I'll get technical for a second, right?
Yeah.
Outside of three-speed combinations, I'll throw the bike contingent out there. I mean, they've got a lot more gears to row through, and gear shifts may be in at that point. There are aspects to where you have to do a mechanism right at the finish line, some sort of movement inside that car or on a bike that makes it difficult. Where now the need is to change it to maybe make it so that you can. It's just a different it is a change there. Outside of that, it's not much. Now, I mean, I'll put an asterisk on this, and this is my personal opinion. I'm not here to say who's right, who's wrong. I would be very shocked if you ever saw me go out of my way to go find a quarter mile bracket race ever again in
for sure.
the foreseeable future. And I'll cop out on that one simply because I'll reserve the right in 20 years to have a different opinion. Right.
Yeah.
But I have, it just doesn't do anything for me. The flip side, everyone that I've listened to, watched, spoke to, the quarter mile conversation really comes from two angles. And one being much bigger than the other is that they have an NHRA background.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what you're talking about. They want to see 1320 racing. Some are more applicable to see a split, But the reality is that they come from a background that sees 1,320 feet regularly, and they want to race on that all the time. And I don't think there's any argument there. I mean, that's exactly what the point you just made was. If I'm going to go out and do something in the form of racing that I really am aiming to do, and I'm supplementing my schedule with bracket races, you want to race on the same length surface and get practice on that you're going to go do what you're really striving to go do. Now, if you're throttle stop racing, it's even more important because the combination, you can't learn anything in 660 feet. That's applicable to quarter mile. If you're doing it another way, it's different, right? Like it's 660 feet of bracket car, whether it's 660 or 1320, the information's, it's not changing for that 660 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the borderlines that I saw. And the other group that came out of quarter was simply just the and I would say hardcore, but it's just I'm a quarter mile racer, right? No different than in stock car world. There's racers who are just short track. Mm-hmm. All I want to do is short track racing, or all I want to do is short track dirt. Like this is all I do, all I care to do. And in that world where there's so many more options and venues, it's maybe more of an affordable idea. Whereas here, we can change the length of a track. Right? You can't go to a short track dirt track or a short track oval and make it bigger or smaller. You can't shrink the track surface to make it bigger or smaller. So here is one of those weird worlds where we can do that. I mean, we can race to the 330. We've done it, you and I, right? So, we can race to the 1,000. I've raced all 4 distances, and all 4 of them I've been equally bad or equally good on in some, manner. Mm-hmm. But I think there's room, at least in our part of the world, in that maybe there's still quarter mile racing that could be had. It's just, it can't be the same day as the 8th mile. Like you have to break out your own program. If you look at things, and I'll go specifically like Can-Am stock, super stock, right? Mm-hmm. There's an NHRA formed class. If you were to mix them in with some of the other categories wanting to go quarter mile, like the open comp categories, right? There are some ONDR venues that still want to see quarter mile, which is the nostalgia series. If you book all of these quarter mile oriented series together, can you not constitute a good reason to have just a quarter mile weekend? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I think these are the things that haven't been missed or haven't been talked about and have been missed. And maybe they've been talked about, just not put out there. I mean, the reality is we're looking at Facebook and assuming that all the conversations that have taken place there, because that's where some of the biggest ones have taken place for Southern Ontario. Mm-hmm. But I mean, go rally up all the quarter mile groups that still want to run quarter mile. A race weekend with quarter mile tops, and then do that and see. It's like, if only 25 cars can be booked in and for that, okay, then there's no room for that. Then, like, it's just not big enough for that to happen. But we constantly talk about out here a little bit of not being able to get races done with overbooking of classes. You do start splitting up friends and families if you start saying, like, you have to run this weekend while everyone else over here. Yeah. But if we're going to get real, militaristic about this in a stance and argue over it, then maybe that's how this has to be. Is there's quarter mile weekends and there's 8th mile racing, and they're two different styles. Yeah.
So we got some good comments here I want to hit on, and then we'll carry on with where we are right now. Jonathan DeVries got a good one. Let's see if it comes up. There we go. Bracket racers are lazy. They ain't doing that work, man. Jono, you're right. That's what I was saying about, like, swapping from, that 8th to quarter mile setup. You're not doing that for the most part. Like, I listened to, obviously, we talked about this Bracket Race Elite, all the other stuff. Luke Bogacki is switching the 8th to quarter. He's got a setup. Peter Biondo, he's switching something. I'm not. You're probably not. The run-of-the-mill dude that's showing up is not doing that, right? So I don't – and is your 8th mile setup not going to work for quarter mile? I think for the most part it's probably not. And I'm not here to argue with anybody about your setup, but that's not a argument, I think, that's valid for the most part, right? Some people, for sure, there's going to be situations that your setup will, you'll hit the rev limiter before you get to the quarter mile. There will be some changes that need to be made. Do I think they're going to be drastic? Maybe, maybe not. But, that's just one argument people have. For the different stuff, Mark Bedard's got one. Have you touched on actual track layouts? Mark's got a good, I don't know, a decent point, I guess. for because you're right. The track layout, certain tracks you just cannot run quarter mile on.
Yeah.
I am not running quarter mile at Lusco. Right. I have no interest in I will go low sevens in the quarter mile. The fastest I went before, I went 7 mid-20s, 7:30s at Grand Bend, done at Cuga, and I did it at Miramichi. But we did all that stuff, and I'm not doing that at Lusco. There's not a chance.
No, and that's
not the conversation where this happened. The conversation is happening at those tracks that are possible.
Yeah.
The example we're talking about is strictly at Toronto Motorsports Park. Yeah. Grand Bend you can run quarter mile at. I think Naperville you could.
They do at the National Open.
They do in the National Open stuff. So there's a lot. There's a lot of tracks that can do it.
Yeah.
But it's just up to the type of racing you have and the customers that you have coming through the gate at the start. Ray Orr gave a good one here as well that you kind of talked about with the quarter mile weekend versus 8th mile weekends. These are just some ideas to have. This is a good way to do it. Quarter Saturday, 8th Sunday, just to change it up. I think
Grand Bend went with that, I think, for about a year and a half, maybe, or they tried to. I'm not sure if it actually worked out. And that was the compromise of we're going to run a little bit of both. Right?
I think if you're going to do it, honestly, at this point, you have to do it on the same weekend because you will have guys that just will go somewhere else for that quarter mile day or vice versa. Yeah. This way, everybody's already at the track. And something that we've talked about many times on the show, when you've made the haul to the racetrack, it costs you a lot of money to miss out on a day, right? Yeah. That's why having more races and more things like that is in my opinion, a better way to do it, right? So then this way you have those 8th mile guys there, you have the quarter mile guys there, and then they each kind of do something that they don't prefer to do.
Yep.
Right? If, it's not, you're not forcing it on anybody, but, this kind of gets both parties to the racetrack if both parties are willing to compromise a little bit for a day.
Well, and I think, and that's, I think on paper that works. And because I when I first saw it too, I thought the same thing. I think what it ends up doing based on the reality is you've got all your 8th mile guys show up Saturday and leave Saturday night. Your quarter mile guys show up Sunday. And I'm not sure if it was the other way around or it was quarter mile Saturday and 8th Sunday, whichever the format was that I'm trying to go off memory. I remember seeing trailers leaving, thinking to myself, because they wouldn't normally leave. And again, more of personal inflection and insight on this. I think it just turned it back to, well, my day is Saturday.
Yeah.
Well, the same class is here tomorrow with the same purse, the same entry fees, or my day is now Sunday, right? And that's back to, I don't know if there's a right answer. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no,
but I think it forced some people just saying, like, I'm only going to race one day, right? Like, and now if you go the other way and say both days are quarter, then, a guy like Andrew says, well, I'm going to stay home, right? And then, next weekend's 8th mile, and okay, well, I guess I'm going to go. Again, I don't know if there's a right or wrong to this. I mean, The only thing that this comes up is I love math and I love splitting differences. And the only difference between 8th and quarter is 1,000 foot. And it really was one of those distances I thought had a chance to take off. I thought this was the compromise. That was how, the spring fling, Peter Biondo and Kyle, that was their advertising slogan, right? The compromise, 1,000 foot compromise. I'm kind of surprised it didn't take off. Again, in the U.S., because I know it wasn't tried up here. I've raced it in the U.S. Mm-hmm. It is an interesting mix because, my personal reflection is I have nothing to gain after 660. Like, there's nothing. I don't care about going 150 in the quarter, right? The game I want to play is wherever the finish line is, and the finish line at 660 does everything I want to do without the additional wear, tear, and time down the racetrack to reflect on how poorly I've probably let go of the button and how quickly this person's gaining on me. 660 feet gives you more than enough time to do that. But the 1,000 foot was just that much farther that it wasn't like I spent the rest of the time wasting what I felt was just time and energy to get on the track. But at the same token, it wasn't quarter mile, and it was intriguing. It changed it. You almost had quarter mile type of rate of closures because, I think I still went in the Mustang. It's 135 mile an hour car in the quarter. The 8th was 107-ish. Okay. I believe the math we did on it, because I don't think the track I raced at had mile per hour at that, because it was moving from one length to the other. It was a team race we actually went to back in Memphis. But I think it worked out to be like 124, 25. Like the loss of mile an hour was actually pretty negligible at that point in the track. And all those specific 8th mile cars could still get there. The ones built just for 8th, it wasn't that they had their tongues out, they were close to it. And the people who were just quarter mile diehards felt it was actually not bad. Like it was a length.
Yeah. I think that when I ran 1,000 feet at Numidia, first time run, I got to the 8th mile and lifted, and I'm like, what is going on? Why is that guy beside me still going? And then figured it out and carried on. It was fun. It's not, I don't know. I liked it. It was a good time. I would just as much enjoy quarter mile racing. I like racing at any type. The difference for my car, very simple. Like mine's going to be 12 to 15 mile an hour difference, right? I think it was 165, 166. Yeah. Maybe a touch higher in the 1,000 feet, and we're just over 180 in the quarter. And so that's, it's still moving pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, I think why it didn't take off personally is, well, for a lot of guys, I think the quarter mile argument, I guess, to start with this, why people, and I don't want to say just like the old heads of the sports don't want it, but a lot do, right? It is what it is. But that's when everybody grew up in the era before mine, for sure. Everybody had a certain speed of car, right? If I ran, 10s in the quarter mile, that's how you based on how fast your car was your quarter mile time. So you still want that, right? Because now to somebody to say somebody, my dragster goes 4s. Yeah. Oh, well, that, like a top fuel dragster does that. Oh, no. We're talking about half the track. Yeah. Oh, well, what's doing the quarter mile? That's what matters. And as much as I don't really care to go, tomorrow and do a quarter mile bracket race, I also don't want to see quarter mile racing die. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you don't want to lose that. Everybody was all upset about it when the top fuel cars and the funny cars all switched to 1,000 feet, but then nobody else wanted to run the 1,000, right? In our cars, because our stuff was going to break and our stuff was going to have issues and we were going to crash. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So then how do you be upset about one when you won't do it with your own stuff? Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of one point for it, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Our sport has built its entire image based around one distance. I think it's a disservice we've done to ourselves, and that we can't recognize that there are different skill levels, different needs. I mean, Pro Modified is a primary example of the different lengths of the track having different ups and downsides to the combination, right? Until Mark Mickey figured out how to make a Pro Modified with a Pro Mod Turbo, 8th mile. Turbos in the 8th with the rule packages that they were offering at the moment were dead. But put them on a quarter mile, and I know Moyer's run was an outlaw run, but
and nobody still touched that.
And no one, but you're gonna get a screw blown car to go that distance and survive? Probably not. But in a rules package, the turbo cars would walk away from it. Back half the track. So we've gotten ourselves, and there's lots of combinations. I mean, go look at Top Fuel Racing. If you ever want a good make work project for yourself on a Saturday or a Sunday when you're bored, God forbid, I don't know that's a thing for me anymore. But go look at 8th mile combinations for Top Fuel, and go look at how cars back half. Now I know their back half still only 330 more feet, right? Yeah, 330. Jesus, math is tough for me today. But 300 more feet. But the combinations of the fast cars to the faster cars to just how they go. The 8th mile is different. If you look at the mile per hour, you look at the 8, they have some drastically different numbers than what results at the back half of that track. There are some tuners that can get their cars 400, 500, 600 feet faster than ones who can get their cars faster than 1,000. So if you're telling me that this racing Top Fuel, as much as it would be a short run, 2.93 seconds, right? I think it's somewhere around there, 2.99. There would still be a change and who the hierarchy would be in that form of racing. And I don't see any difference in that being quarter and eighth to the same extent in bracket racing. I think if you're great in the quarter, you're great in the eighth. But again, different forms of drag racing. We've latched onto this distance. And then it creates such a divisive conversation at times, right? Because you're either pro or against. You're right or you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah, I think so. I think we got another good point. Jonathan DeVries once again came through here. When you're going faster, I'll just bring it up here. Faster you're going, the higher risk of something bad happening for sure. We all can agree on that. There is a higher risk. Your car's at a higher RPM for a longer time. Doesn't matter how fast it is, but definitely the quicker you're going, right? In my dragster, I'm doing, mid 180 in the quarter mile, like that's flying. That is, in 7 seconds versus 4.5. There's more time on the racetrack to have something go bad. So you're absolutely right. So you have more faith in the track safety personnel. Locally, we're lacking.
And I think you can take locally and make that generic.
Locally can go anywhere, right? Doesn't need to be but you go to any local bracket racing series in Canada, in
US, Canada,
I'll narrow it down to where I race, right? Because I'm not sure about everywhere else. But absolutely, you're absolutely right. So is that something that's going to get improved upon, or something else that's going to get brought up? Because all these cars are going faster, right? The amount of 430 dragsters that we have in my local series when I run, the Bracket Super Tour is just crazy.
Staggering.
Right? So stuff's flying. How many 490 door cars we have now?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That could potentially go faster, right? So stuff is flying, and then you never know what can happen. We've all seen it. We've all been at the track for that, So that is a great topic to bring up.
And I think, and then this is maybe something that we lose sight on, because again, everything didn't get fast overnight, right? No. We didn't 2 years ago, everything like a fast door car wasn't still like a 9-second car. And that's honestly part of it. Like back in the 90s, go back to, my youth. If you were going anywhere in the 9-second range, you had a fast door car. If you could go 8 seconds, you had a really fast door car.
Yeah,
if you had a 7-second door car, you were part of the pro show in some capacity.
You were running pro mod.
Yeah, you were paid to
pro
be there
mods
probably.
20 years ago, we're going 7s. Right?
Yeah, like these were 5s. They were 6. They were 5. Yeah. Now I'm feeling like I'm looking back to when I went to the World Championships. It was 20 years ago, and I remember watching the first 5-second pass. So let's not get too carried away here.
I guess it is 2024. So let's say the 90s. The 90s we were going
30 years ago. Wow, that's old too. And nonetheless, but when you go back, like that's relevant. Now you take so I've got a 550 Roadster, right? 560s in bad air. That was a wicked fast car in the 90s, and that was a much different era then than it is now. Now you can take a mid 5-second car, and I'm running it with a 496. There's nothing overtly special. It's a great piece of equipment, with a good, great combination. And I'm still mid pack at 550s at times out east, and even out here, it's not that quick, right? As you pointed out, there's 490 door cars going in circles, just like a stock car. And 20 years ago. So back to the safety. If you put those cars on the quarter mile and run them out, you're talking about 7-second cars everywhere. Have we kept up with the safety part of it? And I don't mean the race cars. I mean, the safety equipment in the cars now is as good as or better than it's ever been. Well, it's ever been. Flat out. It's not good as, it's best as ever been. What we demand at the tracks isn't.
No.
The amount of personnel. The only place that has, truthfully, the amount of personnel that I'm at times, and I'm not saying all the time, I'm really secure in, is sanctioned events. NHRA, which series is the only one essentially still running quarter mile? NHRA.
Yeah. So we'll skip through. We got to end this topic because we got another great one coming up.
Yeah.
One we can talk about for hours, right? So this is all this conversation did is spark another conversation into the track safety for things like that. So
true. That
will bring up again. Great conversation. Keep it up for the next one because I know this is going to wind everybody up. Everybody has an opinion for it. The shot clock coming out. It's been talked about for years. It's finally happened. I believe it has happened before. There were posts going around on Facebook. I don't know when it was. I have no idea. In this era of drag racing, for the first time, we will have a shot clock. Jake Hodge at the Working Man 10 Granders at Killcare. That's where it is. Yeah. So I think it's Xenia, Ohio. I believe it's
That
where
works.
Killcare is.
I'm glad you pronounced it because I wasn't going to go after that. I just knew Ohio.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's where that is. So not that far away from us, give or take 8 to 10 hours, depending on where you are. I'm sure Andrew's closer than that. But so shot clock, essentially, if you have not seen it, heard it, paid attention to it, you have, after one pair, the pair in front of you crosses the finish line, you have 60 seconds for both racers to be staged. Otherwise, you're disqualified. Whoever is not staged at that 60-second point, disqualified right away. Right? Automatically done. Lots of topics, millions of comments, it seems like, online. Everybody's got an opinion for it. It's very much the same as the track length conversation. So
yeah,
this is a problem, but it's not a problem. Okay. So depending on where you are, I'll leave this one kind of off for us. I think the idea is great in certain places. Okay. For us, where I race, normally Luskville, Bracket Super Tour stuff, no issue there. I do not believe there's a problem. There's a few racers that take a while, but that's going to be everybody, right? There's a few racers that are quick, a few racers that are slow. That is racing, right? That you learn your opponents, you have to figure that out. Everybody does a different thing, and that's all right. That does not hold our program up one bit. We can fly these cars down the racetrack all the time. Everybody, understands the goal is to get the race done, and that's just what it is, right? There's no point in messing around. We had a Dragway 42 last year, as did you. I felt like I was going to pull my eyeballs out watching these guys. And this isn't just from me being in the other lane. I have raced against slow racers and have no problem with it. I'll stay in my zone. I watch you do your thing. When I'll roll up. I'll let you know I am ready. And when you are, then we'll go at it, But sitting up in the stands or sitting up top watching the race took forever, man. Guys just sitting there for what reason? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Did it slow the program down? Did it not? I don't know. With 400 cars, we were done. It seemed like second round at 8:00 at night. It might not have been that late. It might have been 6, but it was late afternoon before we got through second round with no time runs.
Yeah.
Why does it take that long? It should not. When we were in mid-Michigan with over 300 cars, 350, and we were done at 8:00. We were done the whole event.
Yeah.
So I believe it has its place. I'm excited to see this be in practice for him. I'm excited to see what actually goes on with it. I think a more appropriate usage of it is a shot clock for maybe the first 3 rounds. Right? You don't want to take the part that this takes away is that staging kind of game for it, right? That, whether there's, a burn down on the starting line or whatever it is, other situation, you just kind of put more pressure on the racers for that, which is the point, I think, in practice is to put pressure on them to get the race done.
Yeah.
But you take that kind of organic story of the race, of how it all plays out and the head games for it, and make it more of a robot sequence, if you will. There's just only a certain amount of time where some racers in a certain time of the day, you can slow the race down or hurry the race up. Based on your opponent, and you kind of, that ability is taken away from you at that point, if that makes any sense. So I like the idea. I think it's good for the first couple rounds. We'll see how it's worked. Do I think it's needed everywhere? I do not. But it'll be interesting to see.
Well, you make a good point. And I hadn't thought about this till now until you made it, about where it's needed, where it's not. So I look at it, and you've ever watched those races, been part of those races, been the pair in the burnout box where you're watching a round 1, 2, 3, or 4 burn down.
Absolutely.
If you're burning someone down in 1, 2, 3, or 4,
what are we doing here?
I'm beside myself. Now, you can certainly get some epic matchups in those rounds. We've certainly seen some Titanic style, like just immense matchups where you've seen 2 guys that should be probably in late rounds going head to head. in round 4. So what you're watching is essentially the round 4 matchup in, the round 8 matchup in round 4, right? That everyone wants to see. But honestly, round 1, 2, 3, and 4, just get it going. This is not the main event. Like, it's the main event race, but we're not here to watch round 4 because it's the greatest round ever. It's round 4. When you're down to those final 16 or the ladder round, which I would, side tangent, every round should be laddered at 16 in my opinion, but that's Andrew's opinion. Asterisk.
Yeah.
All right, I want to see the shot clock go away. I want to see the best 16 racers property go head to head. We're not calling them up to the lanes. Like, no longer is everyone screaming at everyone to get to the lanes. Everyone now has the appropriate time to come back, right? We've gotten rid of the people running around on chase cards type of scenario at the big money races. So let's change this up a little bit. You guys want to sit there for 5 minutes and burn each other down when there's hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, or just thousands or hundreds of dollars on the line, but we're down to the nitty gritty? Fine. That's the story of that race. This is also something that I think everyone has talked about. This is not a Canadian thing. Like,
No.
This is an issue of big money racing. And I made this point online earlier this week in a post. This is not a problem that solves anything that we have in Southern Ontario. I'll speak to the area I'm in, right? We don't have problems with this. We have problems getting cars to the class. We probably have problems with too many classes. This is a big money world problem. This is a 500 car problem. This is a 400 car problem. It's just a 300 car problem if everyone's deciding to take 65, 70, 80 seconds. If you follow Michael Beard in any capacity, you'll know he breaks down races to how many seconds every pair goes down, and 1 or 2 seconds everywhere along the line over the course of a 12-hour day adds up to monumental amount of time, right? If you haven't followed that, follow Michael Beard. You will learn a ton on this stuff. The man is a genius when it comes to race organization and timing. With that said, this isn't going to fix the world's issues. It's just going to make sure that we have no more outliers. Now, at the same token, I think it's going to create another Johnny bracket racer type of clock maneuvering potentially, right? The flicker of the beams.
So that, I'll let you finish it, but let's not move on past that point because I have a good one for that.
We'll come back. And the only reason I say this is it's a clock you can see. When you flicker the lights, no one's really certain. The only one who's, I'm not even sure that, I've been on long enough, but the tree's activated, someone can start counting down. If you miss it, that's how you get counted out. If there's a way to manipulate a clock, a racer will figure it out, and there will be a maneuver. And I'm not here to tell you what it is, because God knows I can't figure that out. I'm not that smart, but someone is. And that may be all that really comes from this, is another way to play a game that we're trying to eliminate to some extent. So from there, I'll let you jump in, because I know you got something, and I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah. So that's a good one. I like the point, because then, and this was kind of talked about with Jake on his post. So for people manipulating the time, obviously that's going to come up, right? Because then I have 60 seconds. I'll use the full 60. I'll get Buddy sitting out there, and then I'll just wait till the very end, and then I'll come on, right? Yeah. That's not how it works, man. Right? Like, because auto start still happens. Yeah. Just stage your car. It doesn't matter what the other guy's doing, right? And then Jake had said, like, courtesy staging in his event, right? However you feel about courtesy staging, which if you don't, that's not putting both fully staging your car before the other racer is pre-staged. Yep. So if you have to, just stage your car. Auto start will take over. You will win that round. If they want to take however long they want, they're already those racers. They're trying to manipulate the auto start timer. Still can only manipulate the auto start timer. Yeah. You stage your car the exact same way, does not make a difference. Yeah. So I can see where somebody would get that idea that it can be manipulated, but I do not believe that's actually possible unless you allow yourself to be manipulated.
You got to put yourself in that situation. Yeah. If there's 25 seconds on the clock, you have to put yourself in a spot to be in some sort of count out or count down, right?
Yeah,
because it's 25 seconds.
You make the mistake.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that's what racers do to you. Those racers will do that. The auto start does only start after 3 bulbs are lit. I'm not sure how it works if you put both on, but if you put both on, then when they do pre-stage, they will, like, then the timer will have started.
But see, this is the only angle. So now 10 seconds left on the shot clock. I'll roll through a scenario here that I haven't actually thought out ahead of this. So bear with me as I roll.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Burned up 50 seconds through the burnout, the backup, the 15 door clear outs if you're a door car, the 17 throttle wax if you're in the dragster, whichever way you want to go here. But you're rolling in.
I think the dragster situation is more like that burnout to 400 feet. That takes up time.
That's valid, true. But you got to clean up the throttle like a lot after those burnouts. So anyway, so you got 10 seconds left on the clock. You're sitting there. You got one on. I'm a big courtesy stage, advocate, whatever term you want to use here, right? Like that's what I believe you need. That's the way it should be done outside of pro racing, which is a totally different world in my books because of what it is. But in this world, you have to eliminate courtesy staging. Like there's no way courtesy staging works because unless you're saying at 10 seconds or less, courtesy staging is out the window, right? At 10 seconds or less, I'm putting both bulbs on. Like I don't care why you're still not in. I care that you haven't lit a bulb because I like the courtesy staging angle, right? But I'm going to go put both on. But until you do put one on, we don't have auto start. Now, at the 0 mark, if you haven't turned on both bulbs, then okay, we're going. But in theory, I put both bulbs on. There's 1.5 seconds left in the clock. You ran the car in there with both bulbs just in the nick of time. And all of a sudden the tree fires on 0 because the starter at 0 or if the automation at 0 kicks it. Now I'm not there. Like I'm not on time. I've missed the tree. Like this is the only maybe this is the only scenario I've come up with in my head where there's a manipulation because I still have 60 and if there's no auto start because you can't have auto start without 3 unless we do a reprogramming, right? At 1.5 seconds, you jam both lights on, which don't get me wrong, you're taking a chance because you're definitely taking a chunk. I doubt you're carefully staging this thing, right? Yeah. But in theory, you could get in there just before that. And if you got good enough at that, all of a sudden, tree is going to fire outside of the auto start sequence because at 0, it's going. So now all of a sudden, if you're not really on the button, you're not prepared for your opponent, you think you're ready to go on a buy run. And all of a sudden, there's 4 bulbs and the tree's coming on and you miss it. The bump down better be set pretty big. Yeah. I'm not saying that's the case every time. That's the angle I'm working through on this. And I'm not saying that's the angle that's going to happen every time. But that has that tree flicker feel to it. And I think you could get good enough at it. And at the end of the day, we've added another dimension to something. Now, if it gets a race done sooner, and this is where I want to see how this works out, right? Like, I don't want to shoot something down. I'm definitely not the person that's going to be like, that is a terrible idea, never going to happen. I don't even want to see it happen once. I likely won't be able to get to one of those events, but I will flat out have it on the TV.
Yeah.
3 days.
We will know what's going to happen. We will know 100%. Exactly what's going to go down. So I think those problems and those questions are always going to be around. But those same problems and those same questions are already here with auto start, right? With waiting for that last second to kind of start. So I don't think it's that much different.
I guess
and I think it's going to be, I agree. And I think it's going to be I don't want to say offenders. That's not the right word, but like the people that are going to play that game is going to be a 1% group of racers, right? This is not a majority of racers that are now going to start playing this staging game because you are going to make yourself have more mistakes than anything. Right? Once you start changing this up. So there is going to be problems. There is potential to screw with it. There's potential to mess with the auto start situation, as we talked about with, moving the steering wheel and whatnot and turning the stage bulb on and off. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see it. I hope it does, pick up a program or kind of force those racers to I don't want to say the lollygagging, but pretty much that. Like, let's get going here.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to get moving.
I do stand by, use it for the first 2 or 3 rounds and then let it go and just let it be what it'll be at the end. Cause that's, especially in these high dollar ones, that there's some pretty immense pressure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need some time. And while you were talking at the first, I was scrolling through my phone. I was trying to find a full video of a race that I was in to see how long I took for it. I did find one video, it was 1:20 long, and that was not from like stage to start. Like that was the
Not
full
burnout to
run,
start.
right? That was burnout until I crossed the finish line after that. So then there's some time in between there that there were 4 bulbs lit. So I was a little over on that. I believe that video was a final.
Yeah.
So then that's one of those high stakes moments that for whatever reason, and it was from a while ago, but for whatever reason, whether I took longer or my opponent took longer, in a final round, you have the time to take.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I think. But these first few, as we said, when you having a burn down in the first couple rounds.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go racing.
And there's been some big money races we've watched more than just one. Like that's a little more than 1%, right? In that particular world, I've seen a few big monies where sometimes it's been like every third or fourth pair that someone does a really long, drawn out staging process, or 2 of them, right? And they're like, here's round 1. We've already started with this. So, it's I don't think it definitely helps the issue I think we've seen in some places where the slow process. Yeah. And at the same token, I do firmly believe slow process is as much the management of the race at times as it is the racers. I mean,
absolutely.
It's this might be a fix for not having a good handle on that at times, and that's maybe a tough thing to say because that can get the ire of those who operate the races. But I think those who have good handles on it do a good job making sure that everyone facilitating the race, the people operating it, the workers, everyone's on it, right? Yeah. We're making it go down the track because they are the ones in control. But anyway, it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how it shakes out. God knows this won't be the last time we probably see some sort of heated, contentious aspect to this, right? And if it really takes off, this will be interesting. But
absolutely. Nick Brunet. Sorry, I was thinking of Jonathan DeVries. Nick Brunet doesn't see really any track needs it. More rules, more trouble. Could be more rules and less trouble, but that's exactly it. You're just adding another problem to happen during the race day. For that, Mark Bedard, regardless of class, average seems to be minute 30 to 40 for just looking at it. I'm not sure if Mark's looking mainly at the Luskville stuff. Luskville's tough because we can't have 3 pairs on the track at the same time because of where the water box is based on the staging lanes. I cannot, if I'm a dragster, it's very hard for me to be in the water box behind my opponent while they're on the staging lane, right? So then you take that extra time for racers to get on the track and whatnot for there. But
which I will say though, it actually and again, like tangent
fly through.
It actually does pretty good. Like I was really surprised when I first saw that. I thought this has got to be a slow mechanism, and the efficiency is actually pretty good. Where you essentially can't get in the box until the other pair leaves, right?
Yeah.
So,
I firmly believe that is the racer mentality and the promoter mentality. Everybody knows the mentality when you're at Luskville, right? We are getting this race done. Let's get going. Yeah. So that's how it is. And the racers want to get it done too, right? Let's get it done. What's the point of us sitting here messing around for longer, right? Let's get it dealt with.
Small tangent on this one. I'll throw this at you. And I don't want, this is maybe a deeper topic. If we're going to throw a shot clock out on the track, why don't we have a shot clock on how to get back to the lanes after the last pair goes down the later round? So the laddered round.
Yep.
How often are we waiting? And as in general, this is across the board. Big money, small, doesn't matter. Where you're waiting for someone, you're waiting for something. Like we've spent 25 minutes between the last pair and now.
Yep.
We could have already run this pair.
I
feel like there's a deep rabbit hole that could potentially be opening up here, which I don't mind. You tell me that the last pair goes down the track, you have 15 minutes. All right. There's no more 14 calls over the PA for someone, right?
Yeah. Can't be doing that. Can't be doing, I know like lunch breaks between rounds, breaks between this, breaks between that, more breaks, just takes up forever. And that's fine. If your series is, you get done at a decent time and nobody has a problem, then who cares?
Yeah.
Right. If this is not a problem, do not make it a problem. You know what I'm saying?
No.
But if this is a problem with what's going on,
Yeah.
then it's an idea for how to fix it. How much of it, like you say, can be fixed with the mentality change of the promoter, or pushing in. But we'll see what happens. Should be good. That's about it. We'll call it. Little long. We're not bad.
That's all right. Good conversation.
Great conversation. Great
Great
conversation from all the viewers. Everybody checking that out. We appreciate all your comments. Love the comments. Right, makes for
Always.
an awesome show. Right, I have a lot of fun when it gets like this. So we'll see how it goes. See what happens. We'll talk to you guys again in 2 weeks. I will see, I hope, a majority of you on Saturday. Winter Rumble practice tree race coming up here in Belleville. So check that out. $5,000 to win off the practice tree. Nick Brunet, he's bringing up some other comments, some real red racing. I love it. I think every track should have real red. So we're not starting that conversation, though. We got to go. We'll talk about it some other time. Thank you guys all for checking it out. I'll see everybody Saturday. Like I said, if you're listening, check it out, man. I don't know what else you got going on, but it's probably not as much fun as coming and hanging with myself and Andrew and everybody else here in Belleville. Do some practice racing. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks again, Andrew, and everybody else for checking it out. Talk to you guys all in 2 weeks. Have a good one.
See you then.
Bracket racing isn't just what we do. It's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life.